All right. So last we left everyone off, we had done our basic introductions. Everyone had gotten their little moment in showing off how they made the gang. And right now in the basement, next to our shadow, Wolfric and Dorville are currently probably just finished beating each other to like submission. Um, and Wolfric, while you are powerful, Dorville is basically his job is fighting, and unless you were to push yourself in some way or activate your connection, it would probably not end in your victory. But Dorville does so in a very like a non-aggressive manner when it's clear that it's kind of over. He sort of offers you his hand up and nods in deference. It's not that he thinks this gives him power over you. He still has a very clear memory in the last time that you were actually at odds and his teeth were strewn about on the floor and his face was bloodied to a pulp. So, but at this moment, it's clear that both of you are ached and bruised, and some of those fake teeth that he had replaced not too long ago are really kind of loose again in his mouth as you got a good couple shots off on him. And at this moment, the door could crinkle open as the other man with the key that has a more reputable open front, I believe, as the door opens and we see our good friend, who is the Doctor, or unnamed. Aaron, have you named your character? Doctor. Okay, Dr. Gallan Poe. Dr. Gallan Poe is well, what is he doing in the doorway? He knows that he's supposed to be here at this point because it's time the gang got together and started making money again. They've got this brand new house. Everything's settled in. So describe the Doctor to me and how he sort of like fits in the doorframe of this house.
So yeah, he's tall, slender. He wears spectacles. He's got some sideburns that are kind of unkempt. He looks like he hasn't actually shaved for a few days. He looks like he's been sleeping in his suit. So yeah, he's like come from the office. He's a little tired. There's bags under his eyes, definitely. Been out all night in the surgery.
Is this a normal look for the Doctor? Is he normally kind of unkempt and ruffled as his normal duties take so much of his time, or is this like it was just a bad day?
Well, it's just a bad day. Yeah, his background. So he didn't actually go to like medical school. He just spent some time uh, with the army in various theaters of Indian wars around the country. So um, he's really good at like amputations, um, things like that of that nature. But yeah, he's been trying to he moved to New England to try to cultivate an air of respectability. So he's like a slightly above snake oil salesman.
You do see the good father, another man of a reputable job, a normal good job, who is still in this line of work, same as you are, is currently held over his Bible and clearly not paying attention to the world at the moment. As the sound of a muttered "fuck" and then a punch in the face noise that you are well acquainted with in this abode comes from the basement, and likely is Wolf, Rick, and Dorville doing their a daily practice, of which you are normally the person they would probably get to patch everything up. Now, a question is, I get two questions. What drove you as a doctor into this line of work? What really pulled you in, and how are you balancing that with your normal job?
So Dr. Poe has a profoundly strong interest in the occult and all things weird. He's had an experience in the Southwest with a Native American shaman. So he does some experimentation. Um, he's actually he's actually got a bit of a rivalry with a local psychonaut, who who is a likes to think of him as a sophisticated doctor using like electricity and stuff to cure the diseases of the brain, whereas Dr. Poe believes that you know various mushrooms and uh, cactus bark, and there's lots of natural things that can be used to remedy those things. Just hasn't been enough experimentation done in pursuit of these things. So so yeah, he how did he how has he helped the gang, so to speak? He's the guy that he's the gang's physiker. So he's really good at dispensing uh, dispensing. He always has something in a little bottle that either relieves pain, stops bleeding, or provides a bit of an adrenaline boost when needed. So he's the. I took the physiker ability, so everybody gets a +1 to their healing and downtime. I was gonna say he's probably had a lot of practice at pulling teeth and stuff, so he's got some good arm strength. Yeah, so he's got a little bit of a belly developing from being sedentary, but he's still got some of that. He's got some of that. He's able to really yank on a molar with a pair of pliers. He's got those muscles. He's like around 40. He's got some gray hair. He's got some gray in his sideburns. He's got some gray with two bits. Yeah, yeah. Mutton chop. That's what I was trying to say.
This door crinkles open, and this, about 40-year-old man walks in his bedraggled clothes. He's got his little bit of black under his eyes, clearly saying he hasn't slept enough that week. But it's not his normal look, so it's not any long-term signs of fatigue. His fingernails aren't yellow, or his teeth aren't unkempt, and clearly he's a man who's taking care of himself, as far as I can tell. And along the bottom of the screen, in a splatter of blood, you can read out the name Dr. Gallan Poe, and in kind of mechanical lettering, you can read under it the words "the leech," as we get a picture frame around his face as it slowly pulls out of the scene. And Aaron, I want you to describe the one moment that Dr. Gallan Poe helped make the gang the level tier 1 it is today. What was the big time it happened from?
I definitely think it was the time when there was a leader of a rival gang that was like tier 1 before we got to tier 1, and under pretense of aiding that rival gang leader, he actually poisoned him, and so there's still there may be some members of that gang that still suspect that foul play. But that was the moment when our gang, we eliminated the enemy leader of that gang, and opened up the opportunity for ourselves to kind of take over their turf.
Okay, and so maybe that's what also happened. Maybe that's also what happened to the other Hawker crew. Part of what helped get it through was they had a lack of leadership, because their leader was currently, floating face upward in the bay with some horrific poison in his lungs, and he just no clue how to get rid of it. So is that we just see the doctor in his lab. No one's allowed in there. It's a closed door, and just something slowly fizzles on the table as he eats through the wood. And we get a little cross-cut scene of you standing at a dinner table with the head honcho and maybe his next guy talking to you, and this is why we need your service, we'll pay you better. And they're eating their food, and just without warning, the head honcho starts to choke, and his friend starts to choke, and you can see them writhing as whatever you gave them was so absolutely lethal, you knew they weren't going to wake up again. As a doctor, you have sullied your Hippocratic oath for this gang. You have done things that your profession are not supposed to do, and I don't know if it morally conflicts with you, if it bothers your character that he flouts such a basic creed and tenet of his life's work or not. But as you stare at the two corpses and you know your friends are going to essentially carry out the day, as Wulfric is right outside at this moment beating the cutter Dorville down and stopping him from interfering as the letters are being sent out and this big moment is going on, you know that there's no rescue for the other hawkers who are supposed to be getting their aid and their help. And so as we pull back in and the picture kind of like doused in caustic material starts to bubble and flicker away as we return to reality with our view, as Dorville and Wulfric wrap up their sparring session. Now, Enigma, you at your desk. At this point in time, they probably still use carrier pigeons, and I'm going to steal that. So you are sitting at your desk when a pigeon lands on the windowsill. Not the windowsill. The railing next, because you're outside, right? You're still at your desk outside. You were writing letters yesterday. So the railing next to the stairs leading down into the fields, a pigeon stops by, and it has around its neck a little message for you. And it's clearly, while not written to you directly, if the other spider isn't around, they are both entryways that you personally receive mail as a way of keeping your information security high. So you know this one is meant for you in some way. The next thing that's going to happen is, Wulfric, you're going to roll me an attune. And this is going to be controlled limited, and you can do with that as you like.
Okay. I hate the limited thing. So let's get this bad boy started off right. I'll push to increase effect.
Okay. So we're going to do controlled standard.
Yes.
We're gonna just mark off your stress and all that. I'll trust you guys to keep track of that because my brain won't. Okay. So just let me know what you roll, and if anyone wants to help, the only person who could help you in this scenario, I would say, would be Dan's character, who is both with you but also a person who is kind of good at hearing whispers in general, and so he can help you piece this together if you want, because it's gonna be a little hard to parse.
Okay.
Just let me know what you roll, and Dan, if you'd like, you can lend him an assist. It's up to you.
Okay, I'll lend him an assist.
Great. I will take the die then. That's a 5.
Okay, so you're standing there, and the dead postmaster's ghost is kind of floating around as well, and you see this sort of shimmer pass through the ghost in a way that, like, all of a sudden he's been hit by TV static, like makes his form scratch in the air, and it gives you just half a second to see it coming towards you. And so if you want to go for it, I think you can also go risky standard to get another roll at this. I think that's the portion of controlled, right, Aaron? If he wants with a 5, he can step forward into it and make it more serious.
That feels like some sort of, right? It's a partial success, so there is some sort of, let's call it, blowback, whatever that might be. Yeah, but that's usually on a full failure. That's usually on a full failure, so that would be on a 1 through 3. You have the option to try again at a decreased position or back off and try something else. I have a partial success, so I did succeed, but something, like, it's not full. There's some sort of consequence. Small, minor.
Like a radio picking up a signal, you sort of feel your mouth open as words are pouring out of your face. Like you've picked up something that is relaying a message to you, but also because Dan's character is there, he can help you parse through it, which is why you got his extra dice. As I try to remember Dan's character again. If you want to put your names, by the way, next to your characters in the Roll20, that helps me a little.
Oh, sure.
I'm just going to need to remember all these. Okay, it's William Slater. So, William, you're standing there and you see your friend's jaw open up enough that it almost looks like it's about to unhinge as a rolling wave of words kind of pour from his face. As both of you are sort of standing there as... Because you've stepped into this instead of fighting it off to receive this message, you sort of allowed it to come through you, so it's not hurting you, it's not really dangerous. Fighting it may have been more difficult in a way, but it also would have made something unable to control you. But between the two of you, you're able to parse the basics of the information, which is that somewhere in the city, a creature is currently being held with enough spiritual energy to send out a missive for help, and it is unknown just how far or wide this call is going, but you get like a rolling tidal wave of feelings and emotions through you. It's bargaining, not in words that you can really decipher, but you know the basic concept of it saying like, free me, I'll give you blank, I'll do blank, just help me, let me out, free, 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 air, need sunlight, God, trap, trap, trap. It's just screaming in a lot of vague words that you sort of coming out of your mouth are at least English because your mind is translating it, but it's even for you, it's a lot to pick through, and that's why William being next to you helps you sort of parse it all, because it brings you back into a human mind frame and helps you like realize, like, because the way it describes things, it doesn't describe things in normal like human terms of like what space is. It's thinking like it doesn't really have a metaphysical space. It has like a location in a reality you don't understand as a human. But Dan helps you pull that back in a little bit more. So you have a vague area in which you understand this thing to be, and you understand that it is bargaining with you, and it has some level of power. Definitely more power than the ghosts of this house, and more power than you've likely personally dealt with as a whisper, or as a spiritualist, whichever you'd like to call yourself. But it's definitely something that feels wrong in its mind that's been captured. So you have that basic information. That is the first mission I'm offering. The terms of what is being offered there are very vague, and so it doesn't provide you an open and cut profit at the beginning, but it is clearly something of powers offering something in return for a service. Enigma, are you going to open this letter, or are you going to shoo away the bird? Because it is your private residence, and whether or not you accept this letter is up to you.
I'll accept it.
So the bird is a bird, and, you know, not particularly special or highly intelligent. So it kind of like coos at you a little bit, like trying to figure out like why you're reaching your hand towards me. And then realizes like, oh yeah, my job. And it like lets you take the letter off its neck. You can shoo it away, or you can write a return letter once you've read it, and which is why it's still standing there, sort of looking at you like, you got seeds? How about breadcrumbs? You got something for me? Come on, where's the pay for the ferry? But it does it a bird way, you know, it tilts its head back and forth, it looks for food, you know, it's not doing a lot. Meanwhile, the letter in your hand is a recognizable writing from... well, sort of from like a recognizable writing, not in like you know the person who writes this letter particularly, but as in you're aware that the hawker sort of community has a general list of orders and things they want from hawkers in general. And so it's currently the newest list of orders. Now, orders are a thing I'm adding in on the hawkers as a side, because like every single group, I had an idea of what I was going to do for this. But in Hawker Group, you guys are going to have something called special orders on the side. This means that during every mission, you will be able to maybe find and pick up certain things that other people are looking for. And how long those orders last is unknown to you because other people, of course, will be trying to fill the orders. But I will roll some vague, undetermined amount of time for you to fulfill it and or not fulfill it. This gives you time to make extra money, make new connections, but more importantly, help you understand what hawkers are all about, which is that there is a demand for items, and you guys are attempting to fill it to make a lot of money. So this is just the latest set of orders that are coming your way. Now, this list will need to be refreshed and or filled in at some point as well. So I'm making it a downtime action for whoever feels like they want to complete it, which is to basically go find the new hawkers list. This means, of course, that if you don't keep on top of the list, you might procure an item that has already been fulfilled as an order. And you will have the item is yours, but the purchaser might have already gotten their order. As a whole, this is more of someone acting as a brokerage and taking their cheeky little cut, but giving you the information. So however you wish to act with that is up to you. You can inform the party of the list and I can post it to the room, or you can keep the list on the side as a sort of current look for yourself, but the group in general will know this kind of list exists. They just don't know where their weekly one is.
I'm gonna take a look at the list.
Are you going to openly share it later, or do you want me to DM you what's on the list?
Keep it to myself for now.
I'll DM you what's on the list in a bit then, and we'll move on to the third. And well, that's not even a mission. That's the third section of the missions here, which is actually something that your good doctor would have come in with. So, Dr. Gallan Poe. Dr. Gallan, you're actually here a little bit off schedule because of something earlier that happened in the day that you realize is a great opportunity for the Red Strings. In your hospital, you met one of the members of... What did I call them? Oh, the Underfoot. The Underfoot is a kind of, similar tier 1 weak holding hawkers group that has been facing a lot of problem from that weak holding issue for themselves currently. They're at a turf war with 2 other groups that has ended up with a lot of injuries on all sides. And as of the moment, they're looking at a ceasefire. The problem is that at the moment, the Red Strings are selling them the weapons that are keeping that war going. And they've only been selling to one side so far. So there is a sort of diplomatic sabotage mission you have been able to see from the current situation, which is that if you keep this war going, you might not only be able to keep your current customers, but you might be able to hook 2 other groups onto your sales as well. And you are seeing this seems to be about 7 coin in profit by simply hooking up the other 2 groups, as well as any other sales you might make at the moment, including, and not limited to, increased beneficial trade deals with the persons you're currently trading with. But you understand that this is headed towards peace at the moment. And so you will be actively attempting to create war where war is simmering down. And it is a diplomatic and slightly difficult mission ahead of you, but the profit looks oh so sweet. And then lastly, with the third mission available, we'll be looking at Dan's character, our shadow, Dr. Gallan Poe. Not Dr. Gallan Poe, sorry. William Slater. God, names are hard. So, Slater, you have been keeping that ear of yours to the ground, and you've been stalking all throughout the city, and you've realized something. There is an unmarked smuggler's vessel currently sitting in the harbor that has been carrying goods for another hawkers group that sells very similarly to yours weapons. And while it's more of an open and shut case if you could get those weapons, seeming to be about 8 coin in value, it is also a mission that is directly stepping you onto the toes of 2 different groups to do so, if you get caught. If you're not caught, of course, these 2 groups would have really no way to trace these facts, and the fact that you already sell weapons and you already have a connection to the harbor. But the time is limited. The ship has been there actually a day over its expected time to leave, meaning that there is currently a kerfuffle they're facing at the moment. But where there is chaos, there's opportunity. And so the ship's still there. It's just up to you whether or not you think you guys could get in and out. So there's your 3 missions. I've wanted to provide you guys a kind of a wide array of possibilities so everyone could choose what particular playstyle they wanted to kick their campaign off with. You've got a sort of mysticism mystery mission in your ghost, figuring out where it is, why it's captured, who's captured it, and then getting it free. Then you have the diplomatic talking and sabotage mission of Aaron's. This mission is going to be one that kind of requires the most finagling from you guys to go into a scenario and really push it out of the direction it's headed. If it is unimpeded, this will end in peace. There is a peace treaty being drawn, and you guys would like to ruin that. And there's clearly reasons why they want this peace treaty drawn, as of the fact that Dr. Gallan Poe has been treating members of all 3 gangs all week, and there have been a few casualties. And they are hawkers, just like you. Business, when you're the one at war, is usually bad. And so the reason they're at war has been the terms as of before have been unacceptable. And now, after all the lost profits, they are now acceptable. So it's up to you how you deal with that. And then, of course, we have the thievery, the danger, and the gunslinging of the smuggler's boat. This is a mission that has a lot of danger to it, but also has the most profitability in terms of direct money to bank and taking someone else's stuff. And every mission you guys do, I will be marking down, as it will have effects on the city. You do not know where those guns are going. You do not know who those guns are going to. They might go to crazy Christian extremists of the Inquisition. They might go to vampire hunters, and you might be causing a vampire problem. Who knows? People are ordering guns, and you're about to take those guns. So it's up to you guys to quickly vote which mission you find the most interesting and which one you think will least end in harming your group, depending on how tits up it goes. Vote amongst yourselves.
Well, Mr. Slater, what do you say we get the gang together and have a conversation? I think we've got some discussions to be had. All right then, Dorval. How about why don't you finish up your chores and then maybe head out for a drink, treat yourself to something.
All right, boss. You want me to gather up any of the boys for what we're doing? Oh wait, he was Russian.
Now you've got me doing Eastern European. That's not necessary, Dorval. At least not yet. We don't quite know what we're doing, but we'll let you know as soon as we need the boys.
I'll put the kettle on for some tea.
Yeah. Cool. We go out to look for our puppet masters. Only finding Playmaker and not the good man, Mr. Smith, I assume. Probably out pulling strings or something. Okay, well, yeah, no, it's part of what he does. I respect that. Well, it's a little unnerving, but that's beside the point. Well, friends, Mr. No, not Smith. Names are hard. Mr. Slater is already aware, but I received a message from a creature in need. I'm not quite sure what it's all about, but it certainly intrigues me. It might be worth a a look-see unless we have other pressing matters to attend to.
Like, not at this moment. Just going over possible assets and possible clients at this moment, so I have free time.
All right. Well, you'll let us know if something comes of that, yes?
Of course.
Of course. Doctor, Mr. Slater, is there anything you'd like to bring to the group before I head out to investigate this quite strange situation I find myself in?
I am very interested in this strange phenomenon you're investigating. As much as I am thinking that that ship in harbor won't be here for long. So I'm always willing to pull out my derringer and charge into action, as I did with the Apaches many years ago. But I think my leaning is towards the paranormal investigation.
All right then, Mr. Slater.
Yeah, I was gonna say that there's a smuggler ship that has a lot of guns from a rival hawker gang. Might snatch those. It's gonna leave soon.
Do we know who it belongs to?
You have a vague idea considering the area it works in, but it would be more of a preparatory information gathering
No,
instead
of course.
just a question
Well,
about who owns this random unmarked smuggler's ship.
right. I
If
just
we can
was-
say if we can find that person. You say the other gang, they lost the assets and we just recovered it, and we can offer a pretty good coin for them to get said assets.
I mean, that certainly is an option. As intrigued as I am by this strange radio message I received, there's not much known about it. At least this ship in harbor is a known quantity. It might be worth at least looking into, see if we're equipped to handle it, get us some coin in pockets, and then if we've got time, I can poke into whatever this thing is. It's extremely possible that somebody else is already on it, and in that case, we could be walking into. Well, we could be walking in straight into a cult, and I'm going to be honest with you, friends. That's probably not the safest place for us to be at the moment.
I will admit, as a whisper, you would have a vague idea that the fact that this emergency scream got to you means that if it is a cult, it's not a very powerful cult in the way it would fail to contain essentially a giant scream that said, "Hey, look, I'm over here."
Got it. Okay.
That kind of lit up the radio board for you, and so that means that whoever's doing this isn't fully in control.
Right. I think what Wolfric is like trying to get across is the fact that this scream went out. He's not so worried about the group containing this thing, but who else might have picked up that call, right? We could be running into something where there's a bunch of just like spell slingers, and we're like, listen, we use regular bullets. So we can go either way. We've just started to cement ourselves here. I'm going to be honest, I don't know. We could use the coin in the inventory, but at the same time, if we step on the wrong toes, the doctor's going to have a lot more work to do. It's going to be on his own gang.
Agreed, so need to stick out our necks for the unknown.
Very well, then. If we are passing on the other opportunities, then I'm going to go have a conversation with some less physical entities and see what I can find about this paranormal scream.
Yes. I'll be looking at the new order we just received from the Hawkers for the Hawker orders.
Oh, the list. Yes, of course.
Yes.
That would be good to know what's out there. Maybe we could find something a little bit smaller and less dangerous.
Yeah.
Do we know the general location of it?
At this moment, no. I would need to see what the items are exactly. Maybe be able to point.
I mean, of this screen.
No.
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 I'm going to have to go talk to some people.
Got the general, not the complete total. You have like a neighborhood.
Okay, cool.
Okay, can I go? I want to go scout. I'm gonna go scout the neighborhood of this screen.
All right.
Okay.
So we're going with the paranormal screen. Is that correct?
Yes. Got us. You got us. You got us.
Okay. Well, I thought all three were interesting. That's why I tried. I'm surprised that the diplomatic mission didn't catch anyone. I thought that was.
I had ways to deal with the diplomatic mission, and it involved a bullet.
That would have probably ended the war faster, but.
Not if it came from the other side. Not if during the delegation someone snipes out one of the delegates.
That would have been. Well, everyone would have been expecting that, so it would have been a very difficult move, but it might have worked. But as of right now, we're going to go down the line here from Aaron to Enigma, and we're going to catch what everyone wants to do to prepare for this mission. You'll all get a preparatory action, and then we'll kick off.
So could Dr. Poe possibly prepare? He's got a friend in a blood dealer, and he's thinking along the lines of preparing a blood potion that could possibly like magnify communication of a spirit, like by so I'm trying to think of like preparing a device. I'm trying to think in game terms, like when you gaining an asset, but something that could like increase the effect of communicating with the spirit.
Okay. It's an interesting idea. Roll me your tinker, and is your friend going to help you with this? Who's your friend?
My friend is Jules, the blood dealer.
Okay. All right. Well, Jules is actually, he's totally going to help you with this. So I want you to take an extra die for Jules. And what Jules is going to do is Jules is going to basically take possessed person's blood. Jules has a lot of creepy things in his basement. And every time you walk by, you realize, you realize Jules has committed several war crimes getting what he has now. This is before war crimes existed, so whatever he did is really fucking weird.
Well, if they're against Indians, they're not war crimes.
Exactly. That's probably partially what he says.
I'm playing up the 19th century angle here. Yeah.
So he's like, yes, had to bleed an entire village to get some of this stuff, but you know how it is. Just a few more. Anyway, yeah. So what we did was we led them into a cursed temple, chasing them with rifles. And we kept them there for 3 days until they started eating each other. Terrible thing, but they have this wonderful creature called it's this mountain creature, I forget the name. It's Wendigos. Wendigos are horrifically possessed monsters of human-eating flesh. But we took some of the blood of those, and apparently, when human beings consumed each other in these mountains, they absorbed the souls of some of the creatures they were eating, driving them absolutely fucking mad. But the blood is very potent. So what we did was we bled a few of those guys dry, and I've kept this here, and we mix it with one of these little African voodoo dolls. You make the ghost possess this, and it can talk to you like it's a body. It's insane. I can't tell you how many we tested on before it really got the mixture down, but this will do real well.
I would like to do some field testing for you with this. Yes.
Oh, pish posh, it's between friends. And you will help me get something later anyways. It's how friends work.
Of course.
So roll me your tinker, because you guys are going to work together to make this thing work. And as much as he proclaims it's usefulness. This is the kind of world where when you guys are making it, it still has a kind of chance to blow up in your face. And so you're making some evil mixture of different religions, basically using several kinds of human sacrifice, because you really want to talk to this ghost, and you went to your creepy, crazy friend who had the answer for you.
Absolutely. All right, here goes.
Oh!
Yeah, so the doctor does a thing where there's some splashing maybe, and he like gets some blood on his finger, and he just sticks it in his mouth, and then doesn't realize it.
You feel when you stick the bloodied finger in your mouth, there's like a horrific burn on your tongue, as if like you had just swallowed the worst kind of caustic acid you've ever seen in your life. It kind of hurts all the way down your throat into your core, where like being stabbed by a knife, it kind of sits there, and you're just like, it just hurts. And by the end of it, God, you're hungry. You gotta go eat something. Everything tastes off. Everything, you can taste the blood in your mouth still long after you've had that taste. And you know, you prick yourself on one of the two canines in your mouth, and fresh blood fills your mouth again. And you realize that the canine portions of your teeth have gained a quarter of an inch of razor sharpness that wasn't there before. Not physically noticeable, not identifying you as a freak or an enemy, but enough that you realized what they did to these people to make it potent as it is makes it very not safe for human consumption. But you are holding your item, and it is a good item. And realistically, I'm going to call that... just take the asset for spiritual communication, and...
You're not gonna allow me to attempt to resist that?
You can totally resist it if you want. Yeah. I mean, dude,
No, I don't
it's...
want to.
You don't want to? No, you're keeping it?
Bring it on.
You like your cool
You
teeth?
sick bugger.
Hey, I'm just saying, like, whenever I'm saying something, by the way, as Blades in the Dark is allowed, and part of the reason Blades in the Dark is so generous, is that at any point you can tell me, I actually want to try to resist that, and I will let you. It's a portion of the game. But if you don't tell me, I will keep talking about what's happening. So, I sort of don't want to offer it because it's your player character action to resist, and the world keeps going if you don't. So it's up to you guys how you do it. But yes, you are hungry. There's a little sharpness to your teeth now, and you have the worst indigestion. And I would not ask your friend for a cure-all. So, but you're holding now an asset. We're going to call it Ghost Medium, and it's going to do more than just the end purpose of what you wanted it to do. It is an asset. As long as you don't burn it for the entirety of the mission, you'll be allowed to use it till the end. And next we're going to go on to Dan's character, William Slater. As we zoom out of this creepy, dank dungeon, as the doctor is being handed his blood-covered little human doll that is reeking of several kinds of evil and smell, but very clearly emanates something that even a non-whisper can feel is wrong. We move over to William Slater, who is in the middle of, as you said, looking around the neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm looking around the neighborhood of where the generalized location. I have I wouldn't exactly call her a friend, but a beggar ally. I mean, I could never be associated with a beggar. I mean, I'm just too...
Okay, I gotcha. So here's the situation. You're going to roll me Prowl or Survey, and it's going to get you kind of a different result depending on what you choose. So I want you to make the choice, and I'll feed you the information depending on the roll you've made. You can take a greater effect for survey if you use your beggar friend, or you can take an extra dice for prowl. Because the beggar friend's going to help you in two different ways. She knows the area more, and so when surveying, she can feed you information, but not necessarily do more than you, because she's sort of looking at the same thing you are. But when prowling, she can cover more ground with you. So you can get more of a wide berth, or you can get a more effective look. So that's up to you how you'd like to do it. Just choose which one you'd like to roll, and you'll be fed the information corresponding to the roll.
Survey. Yeah. Alright, so... Position is what, controlled?
Position will be risky. This is someone else's territory.
Right,
And you
okay.
are attempting to essentially infringe in someone else's territory. You're not just walking through. You're spying. And so it's risky if they catch you. But the position will be great because your friend is helping you survey, and she has more information locally than you do. And so while you're both together, she can feed you pieces of information you didn't know before.
Alrighty. Bonus dice, none. I will push myself for 1 bonus dice.
A 6. There
Let's
we go.
Oh.
Ay. A 6 with great effect. So, while surveying, instead of prowling, you're out in the open. You're not particularly climbing in rooftops or breaking through windows or doing anything that would particularly hide you from people. You're people watching more than prowling. And as you people watch, your beggar friend, who is there sitting on the wall next to one of the buildings you're standing on, is very obviously begging you for food or change. But at the meantime she's doing that, she's watching everyone with you. And it's kind of like a back and forth that resets every few moments so that you can continue watching together while being obviously not of a party or a group. She doesn't want to be involved to that level. She's here to help, but she's a beggar, and the kind of people you deal with can make her disappear off the street immediately. She's not that kind of person. But when someone walks by, in the middle of her begging, the moment he's out of sight, she stands up and says, "He doesn't belong here." And it's very, very cold and sudden, like she recognizes something about his walk or his gait that says, not normal person, and doesn't live in this town. I know everyone who lives here. He doesn't belong here. And sort of you can just watch him as he goes on by, and you two can walk and talk. And she kind of drops the beggar act a little bit. She's not dressed well, but she walks like she's known you for a while, and you've just kind of switched personas almost. As this guy doesn't even notice you following him all the way back to what seems to be an ice cream store called the Screamery. That got my roommate to laugh. The Screamery is an actual place that was in
Amazing.
Yeah. I got that, I think, months ago when I was poring over the map with my roommate, and the Screamery. I was saving it for this moment. If you guys didn't choose this, I'm going to use it later. So the Screamery, it's an old ice cream store. It's still in business. There's still customers up front, but no one sort of parts with this man as he moves down the back alleyway into the door. And you can see enough into the building that along the bottom of the door frame, on the inside of the door frame, there is etched symbols that glow slightly, meaning you have been led directly to the building where it's being kept. And with a great result and a 6, I can even tell you that if you stand outside that building and you watch long enough, you can get a general idea of how many people are even in this building. You see 7 people who similarly don't really look like they belong. In a way they move is predatory, is kind of decisive and watching out for themselves. In the same way that there is 2 other people who don't move that way, but move in a way you're much more familiar with. calculating. Cold. So you don't know who this group of 7 is next to this pair, but the pair is clearly a couple of hawkers who are eyeing everyone up and looking for their profit. There seems to be a deal going down, and the amount of time you have to move is unknown, but you watch long enough and you realize they're still very much in the negotiating stage. So, there you go. The total seems to be 9, 2 of them being in the group of which possesses such an item, 7 of which seems to be looking to purchase it. In the middle of this back room of a screamery, an ice cream parlor that is working open from the early dawn to the late night as they rotationally switch out 1 or 2 workers during the day. The workers seeming to have no idea what the fuck's going in the back of the room, but everyone seems to have a lot of compliments about their ice cream. It does taste good if you try any. So, you're able to pull that information away, and at some point, your beggar friend disappears from your line of sight, and it's just gone. And something about the beggar friend you have is that they are very low presence in some ways. They simply don't catch the eye. They're very plain looking, not pretty, not ugly, not fat, not thin, but they're just sort of the person who melds into the crowd very well.
I was gonna flip them a coin
Well, it's
for their info.
a little too late. They're already gone. Now, of course, if you ever want to get them something, you are aware you can contact them if you want to give them a gift as thanks for their service.
Fair enough.
You also know that the money will be spent poorly. They are homeless for a reason. In a world full of economy and business, there's not a lack of jobs they could have gotten, especially not when they're willing to work with your ilk, but they have a horrific set of spending habits that lead to them being still homeless. But they'd always appreciate the money. And as we pull away from Slater's successful search and finding, we kind of flip back over towards